Hello, hello, hello. Today is Sunday, December 1st, 2024, and I want to get on here very briefly and talk about the topic of, of always be early. Always be early. And I'll tell a quick little story. Uh, when I worked out at what is now Buckley Space Force Base, used to be called Buckley Air Force Base. But many years ago, when I worked out at the Buckley Space Force, or Buckley Air Force Base, now Space Force Base, um, my boss at the time was a former Marine sergeant, and he always had a saying that if you were on time, you're late. So there were many times that I saw people, including myself at the beginning, where I'd be right on time. Like, I mean, it would literally be like, 7:30 in the morning. I'd be there on the dot at 7:30 in the morning. And he would still get on me for being late. And I'm like, well, wait a second here. What do you mean? And it wasn't just me. He was that way with everybody. And at first I was kind of like, what the hell is this? But then he explained to me that if you're on time, you're late, means that it's always better to be early than to be on time or late. And the reason for that is because if you're always early, then life is a lot easier. You get rid of a lot of the stresses that you have in life, such as playing catch up, or like in the case of arriving to events and like to work or to a meeting or whatever, it's better to be early because that way you're not stressing out and worrying about things that might happen that slow you down. Like if I'm traveling to an event or some kind of a meeting or whatever, and I'm on the highway, and if I leave with just enough time for me to get there on time, but I'm not accounting for potential slowdowns, bad traffic, accidents, that sort of thing, then Murphy's Law being what it is, that if anything can possibly go wrong, it will. Then I'm stressing out over the possibility of being late, and I usually end up late because of the inevitable, like somebody, a car breaks down, I have issues with my vehicle, slow traffic, something happens to where things are backed up, whatever. So being early in the case of specifically events and like meetings and things like that is to give yourself extra time to account for anything unforeseen, events out of your control that might slow you down or, just screw things up and, cause problems. So I'm somebody who, whenever I tried to be, I procrastinated and I was just waiting until I was, giving myself just enough time to get there, always something would happen to where I'd end up late and I'd have to be explaining myself and all that kind of stuff. And so life is actually easier. So be easier, be kind to yourself, is what I'm trying to say here, by striving to always be early, be 15 to 30 minutes early to whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. That way you can account for any potential, Murphy screwing with you. And it just makes life so much easier and so much less stressful. So one way to avoid a lot of problems in life is to always strive to be early. So you leave earlier. And like, for example, another example would be that every night before I go to bed, I've always got the next day's clothes set out and arranged so that when I get up in the morning and I need to get dressed to go whatever I'm do whatever I'm doing, my clothes are already set out, and all I do is I just throw them on and I go. Takes me 3 minutes. Used to take me, way back in the day, over an hour. And that's because I'd get up, shower, do my thing, whatever. Then run to the closet to get my clothes, do whatever, and then I'd end up running behind, which caused me a lot of stress, because then I worrying about being late, and I would, end up being late to work, get written up. So many problems in my life were caused by not being early, because you're really putting the pressure on yourself when you do that. Another example is with my vehicle, I never let the fuel gauge get down to less than half of a tank of gas. Why? Because inevitably, if you let, at least in my experience, if I'm out and about and I've procrastinated on getting gas and keeping the gas tank full, what happens when I need gas is when I'll be stuck in traffic on the highway and I'll be running on fumes, and then I'll be one of the people who, if I'm lucky to get to the gas station, inevitably, Murphy's Law, I'll get there and all the gas pumps will be occupied, and so I'll be waiting there to get gas, which puts me further behind and getting to wherever it is that I'm going and stuff. So I always keep my gas tank at least half full, and preferably no less than 3/4 full, to avoid problems. It's about avoiding problems. So that's just another example. So, that's really not about being early, but it's like filling it up early. Instead of waiting to the last minute to do something, be prepared and do it in advance. And that way you have a lot less stress in life. You avoid a lot of problems in the near future. So the being early, it can be taken literally, but it's also metaphorical for doing things in advance and not letting things get out of control. So I just wanted to touch on that. And my boss, again, that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, former Marine, and I think it was a sergeant, if I remember correctly. At first I was like, what a dickhead. What do you mean? But then he explained that stuff to me and I tried it out. And I kid you not, at least half of my problems in life went away and half of the stress. So, like when I wanted to get into school and I was signing up for classes or things like that, as soon as I knew I wanted to do that, I got on there, I made the contacts, did what I had to do, found out the information, and got ahead of the game. Being early is about being ahead of the game, and that way you're never playing catch up, and you're not behind. And it also helps you to avoid so many other stresses and regrets in life, because I don't know how many times I've seen people and myself in the past miss out on opportunities, because of procrastination, waiting around, and then find out that the deadline came and passed, and where I could have taken advantage of an opportunity, but that, I slammed the door of opportunity in my own face by screwing around and procrastinating and not getting ahead of the game. It's all about being ahead of the game. So you can take advantage of opportunities and not screw around and, you know, and by doing that, you're also eliminating future regrets. You know, there's that commercial of that couple who's talking about, you know, I think it's kind of a cute little commercial. Don't let the future you hate you. Well, that's the same thing. That's the idea. So if you try to get things done ahead of time, be proactive, be early. That way, you're accounting for anything and everything that Murphy might throw in your way to screw things up and to delay you and slow things down and cause you problems. And you're also relieving a lot of stress in your life. So being early is about getting ahead, running up the score, you know, in the game of life, getting ahead. And that, by the way, is also how you get ahead of 99% of everybody else out there, especially in terms of competition. So at first I didn't like the guy, you know, the drill sergeant. Well, he was kind of a drill sergeant. He was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. I didn't like him at first, but then after he explained things to me and I tried it out, I was like, oh yeah, he's right. And so I started showing up early to work, at least 15 minutes early, which gave me the time after punching the clock to go to my locker, do my things, you know, put my equipment away, do whatever I had to do, and get to the meeting I had to get to. And other people, including the higher ups, started to take notice. So, because I was standing out while everybody else was showing up right on time or being late and getting written up for being late, I was early. So I just wanted to mention that. It's really about running up the score in life, getting ahead of the game, and, you know, and it's not just about literally physically showing up, you know, to meetings and things like that. Be early, even if you're supposed to meet somebody for lunch or to go to the movies. You know, you're gonna go on a date with somebody. Show up early. Show up early, and that way you get rid of a lot of the stress and a lot of the problems that comes with running late or being late and missing opportunities. And so yeah, it's really about getting ahead. You know, so many things. It's about getting ahead in life, running up the score, eliminating you know, regrets. And I'll just tell one more little story about that, and then I'll get off of here because I got to go into do my workout and everything. One of my biggest regrets in life is that I did not get into the Boy Scouts. Wanted to get into the Boy Scouts. All of my cousins were in the Boy Scouts, and for various reasons, when I originally wanted to get into the Boy Scouts and everything as a little kid, I was not able to do so because I couldn't find, you know, like a male figure at the time who would spend the time. You know, you had to have preferably a father or a male figure or whatever to, in order for you to be in the Boy Scouts. Now, I did have that. However, I did not have, none of them at the time were willing to, or at least that I knew of, were willing to take the time to be, you know, I guess to sponsor me to get into the Boy Scouts. So basically the first time I asked about it, I was told no. And then I gave up. And then years later, I found out, you know, when I was young, my father was not in my life. He was later on. I was able to find him and all that. And I found out what all that family dynamic was about and everything like that. And, I'm very grateful that I found him later on. But basically, I gave up after the first, expressing interest in getting into the Boy Scouts. And then years later, I found out that had I just asked my grandfather or my uncle or, my Uncle Dave or my Uncle Bob, Bob especially, because his kids, my cousins, were in the Boy Scouts, they would have sponsored me probably. At least they said they would have. But because I waited, because I just, didn't know any better at the time. By the time I found out about that, it was too late. So I never got into the Boy Scouts because it was too late. That time had already passed. And if I had just known better to, ask around, hey, would you sponsor me? Would you do this? Would you do that? If I had not taken no for an answer so easily, I probably would have gotten in. And I wouldn't have the regret now that I do about never having gotten into the Boy Scouts. But come to find out, my father was a Boy Scout. And, so I've learned a lot about, but I never got to do the scouting activities. I never got to, get the badges and have the uniform and all that. All the things I wanted to do because my cousins were involved in that. And a lot of it was simply because I was late. I asked first, was told no, didn't try harder to find out, didn't ask around. It didn't occur to me at the time. I was a little kid, didn't know any better. And then I found out years later that the people I didn't think to ask, my grandfather, my uncles, they would have helped me get in. But by the time I knew to ask that, it was too late. So that's why I'm saying always be early. And I guess another thing to add to that is don't take no for an answer so quickly. I'm not saying if you ask a person out on a date and they say no, that you harass them and stalk them and shit like that. But if there's something you really want to do in life, find a way or make one, work your way around. But be quick about it and try to be early. As another YouTuber that I follow, Greg on the Black Conservative Perspective channel says, there's the old saying, it's better late than never, which is true. But he also says, but it's better never late, which is also definitely true. Because when you're late, now you're playing catch up. And so just by being early, you eliminate a lot of regrets and a lot of stresses and potential problems that can, creep up on you. I've known people who were consistently late to jobs or consistently late to meetings and all that, ended up being fired, or people who were in business negotiations and the competition got there earlier and they got the contract because they were late and they lost out on millions of dollars. So always be early. And with that, I'll say, live long and prosper.